Anybody that thought Labour were going to get in and stand up to the unions when they're all stood there going, oh, we're not going to give in to big pay rises, we don't owe the unions anything and all that. Complete morons if you voted for Labour on that basis. They were lying the whole time. They are too in hoc with the unions.
All this happened in the early 1970s, and the UK had to go to the IMF for a bailout, the International Monetary Fund for a bailout. Third world countries go to the IMF for a bailout. First world countries don't. We did in the 70s. And that's where, again, and it was Labour who took us there and are taking us right back to the 1970s.
Definitely. And that obviously that was all down, well, not completely, but a lot of that was down to the unions as well and the miners and all this stuff. And that's exactly what we're seeing now. It might not be the miners, but we're seeing a similar thing now. Anybody that thought Labour were going to get in and stand up to the unions when they're all stood there going, oh, we're not going to give in to big pay rises, we don't owe the unions anything and all that. Complete morons if you voted for Labour on that basis. They were lying the whole time. They are too in hoc with the unions to be able to stand up to them. They rely on them. They rely on the millions of pounds. I mean, even the biggest donor, the Unite Union, have turned on Labour. They're refusing to back all these tax increases because it's costing jobs. So for once, the trade unions actually do what it's supposed to do rather than playing politics. They're actually trying to keep jobs.
I was going to say they are. Now, for people who still voted for Labour, Labour had one big promise because we knew they were going to give public service workers big pay rises. We knew they were going to be blackmailed by the trade unions. We knew all that. But they kept saying, we're going to grow this economy. We're going to be the most pro business government ever. That's how we're going to afford it all. That's how we're going to spend our way out of this because we're going to grow the economy like no one's ever grown the economy before. But it's not happening, is it? And we can't see it ever happening. That was their huge mistake.
Yeah, and the people's huge mistake was believing that Labour were actually going to grow the economy. There is no Labour government in history that has ever left office with employment higher than when they came in. Unemployment has always been up by the time Labour leave office. And what else goes down, sorry, while Labour in office? The money in the coffers, the money in the exchequer. You've only got to look at the last Labour government with Brown, sort of government such as it was. They left a letter in the cabinet office saying, sorry, there's no money left, or in the chancellor's office. That's the kind of people we've got in charge of our economy, and I don't care if it's Brown, Blair, a lot of them. They are, or this lot now, sorry, they have no idea how to run an economy. And at least the Tories have, say what you want about them, they do know how to run an economy. Even, people criticise them for all that austerity, yet Labour failed to mention it was because of them that austerity had to be brought in for a time by George Osborne. Didn't like it, no one liked it. But I actually believe they had to do it at the time because things were that serious economically. They were talking about the IMF again then. If we carry on like we are now, like you mentioned about us having to go to the IMF, we're heading that way again now. The way we're going, this GDP is just going to continue to shrink. And they're going to keep, and let's not forget, I mean, ties in immigration again. You're going to have people coming over here in hundreds of thousands, if not millions, every single year. Then you've got the boat people coming over, all a net drain on the economy. Very few people that emigrate over here are actually net contributors. I'm not just to pick on one community, but take the Somali community. 72% of all Somalis that have moved to Britain live in social housing. Immediately, you're a net drain. Why are we importing people that are net drains? We're in a bad enough situation as it is without importing people who are just take out of the system. If you want to import doctors and that who are going to earn 100 grand a year, then fine. At least they're going to pay the taxes and they're going to contribute to society. But while we're importing all these people, and then you've got Labour working basically to import these people anyway, they're not going to deport anybody. We just end up with a worsening economy all the time. And they might say, oh, GDP went up by 0.02% or something like that. But GDP per capita, if you look at it, per head, continues to go down in this country.
Most people don't understand the economy, and I'm also one of them. But what people do understand is when it starts hitting them. when they realise they can't afford what they paid for last year, when they can't afford to go on holiday anymore, when the mortgage rates have doubled. I remember the 80s when interest rates were like 18%. So when those things start happening, and the price of food going up, like happened in America, that's one of the reasons why Biden didn't win the election, was the price of food in the shops based on their policies. That's when things will turn. And I've said from the very beginning, things have to get worse in this country before they'll get better, before the people realise that we're dying. And I hope it's going to be this year.